Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Mamani. I hope you all are doing good, my dear friends. Today is 28th February 2020. Day is Friday. We have some interesting editorials on our table. The first one is Virus Marches On. From the name itself, I'm sure you'd be aware about this thing, or you might have guessed that this one is going to be about coronavirus. Yes, we are going to start our discussion of the day with coronavirus. But before that, I would like to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses, which are designed by best faculties of our country. You can purchase them from studyiq.com. To download the PDF of today's lecture, you have these two sources. Please make sure that you share this lecture with other students. If you have learned something from today's discussion, then do hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So first of all, let's talk about coronavirus. Now, we have these two editorials, and I like both these editorials because they are very informative. You can, if you pay attention to the lines that you can see on your screen, then you will find so many things like the spread of this virus. Now the name of this virus is novel coronavirus. It is also called SARS-CoV-2, and this virus causes a disease. The name of this disease is COVID-19. So remember, SARS-CoV-2 is the name of the virus, and the name of the disease is COVID-19 or COVID-19. Now, the good news is that the numbers are dropping in Wuhan and other parts of mainland China. This is a good thing, but the bad thing is this virus is, registered, or it is spreading in different parts of the world, in different regions. Like there are countries like Algeria, there are countries like African countries, there are like Brazil, South American countries, like they have registered their first cases. Now it's quite logical, isn't it? Because we are living in a very integrated world now because of these two inventions, or not inventions, I would say innovations. Invention is something that happens for the first time. Innovation is again something that new enters in the market, or you refine things. So we have always used this, let's say, ships for transporting, isn't it? Things and people from one place to another. But now things have changed. Telecommunication is more rapid, and we have this mobile phones, and we have aeroplanes now and things like that. So basically, this global supply chain, right? We are part of this global supply chain now. The world is more integrated because of transportation and telecommunication. And China, as we know, is a manufacturing hub of the world. So many people are buying things, so many countries are buying things from China, and people from, let's say, Algeria. There are so many exporters, right? Like Algerian people living in China, because they are selling things to Algeria. They are sending things from China to Algeria. So naturally, more people are traveling between Algeria and China. And this is just one example. You have different people, or people from various different countries. They are living in China, so they are going back home because of this coronavirus, and some of them are bringing this or carrying this disease and virus with them. So 3,346 cases from 49 countries, and this figure we got it yesterday, that is 27th. This is the latest figure, 27th February 2020. Now, this does not include the 705 confirmed cases on a cruise ship in Japanese water. It was in news few days ago, or a few weeks ago. And till some time back, this cruise ship was in news. It was a big thing. 705 is a big number. But South Korea is on number one position, and it's a bad thing. On 24th till 24th February, South Korea stood at 763 cases. Now the latest figure is 1,766 cases and 13 deaths. Of course, South Korea is not that far from China. So many people are trading. Again, trade and transportation is one of the most, you can say, important thing. And this is again one of the main causes that this virus, as well as this disease, is spreading from one region of China to various different parts of the world. Now, for this South Korea, you have this city called Daegu, and Daegu is they have this a religious community living over there. They meet at a particular church, and it is said that this mass gathering in enclosed spaces, these things are like ideal grounds for this virus to spread, and this is why this virus is spreading in countries like, or we can see this big numbers in South Korea because of this mass gathering. Now we have to understand this thing like this. There are so many rumors and fake news surrounding this coronavirus, but I would like to add here that this fatality rate is 3%, so which is, it's not that bad. It's not that severe. 3% is manageable. But this coronavirus episode is a lesson for the whole world, that in future, because we are living in a very integrated world now, a problem or this sort of virus or disease for one country it's not going to be limited to one country, isn't it? It's going to spread in different parts of the world, and this is just one coronavirus is just one example. We are going to see some in future as well. You never know. So it is better that we learn things from this whole episode, and we prepare ourselves, the whole humanity. We should prepare ourselves for the future diseases, because things are going to be a bit more integrated in future, and we are going through this phase of climate change. So you never know what is there just around the corner. So that's basically everything. So now let's move on to second one. Again, a very interesting article, A Browning East. A Browning East is about Eastern Ghats. So first of all, let us locate where you find Eastern Ghats. So here you can see on your screen, this is a map, a physical map of India. And you can see these are Eastern Ghats and this are Western Ghats. Now, the difference between, I'm going to be very, to the point here. I'm talking about big differences that you can see on your screen. Like this one is more continuous, this Western Ghat. It's basically a mountain range starting from Gujarat, the tip of Gujarat. So you have Gujarat, then from Gujarat you have Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Kerala, and then it ends here in Tamil Nadu. So it's more continuous. If you compare it with Eastern Ghats, you have few ranges here, then you have a gap, then you have ranges, gap, and things like that. Now, Western Ghats are the crown jewels of India's natural heritage, because you find tropical evergreen forest on this belt. So naturally, more trees, more herbs, more shrubs, more biodiversity of flora and fauna. You find it where? This Western Ghat, right? And on Eastern Ghat, Eastern Ghat, they have a different types of forest. They have dry deciduous, they have moist deciduous, and they have semi-evergreen landscapes. So in this region, in this whole Eastern Ghat, it spreads across some 75,000 square kilometer, and from Odisha to southern, this Odisha to this Tamil Nadu. You have these three states basically. You have Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. You find them, this Eastern Ghats, these ranges, these mountains, in this particularly these three states of our eastern India. Now, in this mountains exists a reservoir of 3,000 flowering plants. 100 of them are endemic. And as I told you, that you have three different types of forests here: dry deciduous, moist deciduous, and semi-evergreen forests. On the Western Ghat, you have predominantly tropical evergreen forest. In Eastern Ghat, you find tigers, elephants, some 400 bird species. Average rainfall is 1,200 mm to 1,500 mm. And new research indicates, and this new research, generally speaking, right, there are few parts of the world where forest cover has increased, but unfortunately in most part of the world as well as our country, we find that things are on the decline side. So Ghats face a serious threat from climate change, and temperature variations are a cause for worry. If you go through some basic books like NCERTs, if you read NCERT geography from NCERTs, you will find some more details about dry deciduous and moist deciduous forest. They are, dependent, means water plays a very important role, water as well as sunlight. These two things are very basic for photosynthesis, and the more photosynthesis opportunities, the more variety you will find. And if water and all these other elements are available, then you find tropical evergreen forests, so they remain green, generally speaking, throughout the year. But with other types of like deciduous forests, right, you have this dry season. So if this stretch, let's say if you have 3 months of dry season, now because of this climate change, and if temperature is going up, or if it is, means generally it is going up, and because of this thing we find that it will impact your rainfall, and this will diminish the rainfall or the average rainfall, and this will impact your dry season. It will increase, or the stretch of early on it was 3 months, now it will be, let's say, 3.5 months or maybe 4 months, and this will impact your trees production. It will impact those herbivorous animals who are living on or are dependent on these plants, and that will impact their population. Their population will impact those carnivorous animals, and that will again impact this whole ecosystem. So this is a big problem that generally speaking we find in various different systems, in various different jungles, and existing data point to the impoverishment of areas experiencing rainfall reduction in the driest quarters of the year. Point number 1, a rise in seasonal temperatures, reduced plant species diversity, very dangerous, and in Eastern Ghat what we are finding is a dominant role of herbs over trees, that herbs are increasing compared to trees. So these are 4 important changes that we are finding. That's what the data points, and this is a sad thing. Protecting the Eastern Ghats, which are separated by powerful rivers. You have 3 big rivers of southern India. You have Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri, and India is committed under Paris Agreement as well, that we are going to create additional 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon sink. Carbon sink is basically a sink that, if you increase your forest cover, that photosynthesis, these trees, they absorb carbon dioxide. So more carbon will be absorbed by more trees. The more lush green trees we have, the better it is for carbon absorption. But our policies are not implemented properly. Jungles are being chopped every single day as we are speaking now, and this is a very dangerous thing, because if we don't have our forest and jungles, we all are part of this ecosystem, right? If we are destroying our jungles for natural resources for now, we may earn money, but a time will come where our money will not repair the things that we have damaged, and everything has its own tipping point. Tipping point is a very important thing that you have done. A tipping point is a point from where things will blast, like a product, right? If you are selling a product, then in starting phase it may have a gradual growth, but once it reaches to its tipping point, that product will blast. The sales will go, it will skyrocket. The same thing happens with diseases as well. Coronavirus, right? Tipping point. Once it will reach its, or if hits its tipping point, then it becomes nearly impossible to control it. Same thing happens with climate change as well. And they say that if we cross this 2 degrees Celsius mark, once we cross this thing, then it's basically 2 degrees Celsius is a tipping point. After that, things will shoot up, and we won't be able to restore things ever. So we have to be very careful with our jungles. Then we have one research work, or this article is it's talking about a research that was conducted on Aadhaar. Aadhaar, no standout performer in welfare delivery. Now, Aadhaar has curtailed leakages of government subsidies through Aadhaar savings worth 90,000 crore have accrued to the government. Ajay Bhushan Pandey, who was then CEO of UIDAI, and he is current Revenue Secretary, in 2017-18 annual report, he said that with the help of Aadhaar, government has saved 90,000 crore rupees. Aadhaar, when Aadhaar was conceived at that point of time, we are talking about 10 years ago something. At that point of time, it was said that India spends nearly 3 trillion rupees per year on various different welfare programs like MG Narega, PDS, food security, etc. And out of this 3 trillion rupees, roughly 30 to 40% is lost in leakages, and Aadhaar can fix it. That's what it was said back in 2008, 2007, and that a decade ago, basically. So a new research has been conducted by these professors of National Bureau of Economic Research, and as per their finding, this claims of 90,000 crore rupees we have saved so far, this thing is you can say fictional, or you can say these numbers are exaggerated as per this particular research finding by these three professors. Now let me tell you one more thing, that this article is written by a person who is a politician from this National Congress Party. So naturally, his viewpoints are going to be a bit against the government. But our concern is not that. This is not the reason why we are discussing this article. The reason why we are discussing this article is because it is coming from a reputed organization, and we have to keep this thing in mind as well, that you can, if you conduct a research on something, then you can, let's say, if Aadhaar, right? So there are various different methods of collecting data, and that will impact your finding or your result. So we have to keep that thing in mind. And in this article, it is not explaining in detail like how exactly things were executed. Like this article says that the study was set up in a manner where one set of beneficiaries, they went through this Aadhaar-based biometric authentication. So if you want to get your ration, say for example, then you will use this Aadhaar-based biometric authentication, and the other set, they used that old system of procuring their ration, like using those books or register. When Aadhaar is not working, for example, for whatever reason, then you will use the normal way of doing, or traditional way of doing things, that you will note down in a registered book, right? So this study is saying that when these two sets, right, they conducted a scientifically designed study of the PDS in Jharkhand covering 15 million beneficiaries using the technique of randomized control trials, and they found that the result, that means this Aadhaar-based biometric authentication in fact increased transaction cost, and it was not able to reduce leakages. And they also talk about this type 1 error of exclusion, where your authentication fails, where technology fails, and in those cases people are not able to get there, or they are denied their ration supplies. So these are the faults of this Aadhaar system as per this research, right? And it also talks about this two worlds. We have one engineer's world. Engineer's world is basically where you have, let's say, 100 people, and out of this 100, if 3 are left out and if 97 are getting those benefits, then engineer's world will go ahead with this scheme. This will be considered as a very beneficial for society. But from a sociologist's point of view, in a liberal society, a policy that could run the risk of denying welfare to just a few people and putting their lives at risk is not worth implementing, regardless of how many millions it benefits. So engineer's world, this thing is good. Socialist world, this thing is not acceptable. So we have this clash between these two worlds here, as per this finding, of course. So we are done with these three important topics. Now this one is a pure political one. If you have extra time, go through it, or else you can drop that one. Pure political one, it's one-sided. So there's no point of going through it. But if you have extra time, as I said, you can go through it. Now we are going to talk about these two articles here. This one is about this opinion that you find every Friday on the Hindu newspaper. So this one is about what should India's joint command structure look like. It's talking about some technical things. You have some experts' opinion on table. So let's go through it. So after this, I'm going to be very brief here again. So after the Kargil War, a decision was taken to overhaul the higher defense organization. At that point of time, we realized that there are so many issues with our higher defense organization. There are several weaknesses, so we need to get rid of them. So this joint, military, this joint command structure, or this chief of defense staff was discussed at that point of time. This military theater command was also on our table. And late 90s is a very interesting era, because we had this nuclear test as well. So India became a nuclear power. So we have an altogether new, if you go back and if you think from 1998, 1999 point of view, then we have altogether a new weapon in our arsenal. So we have to have a proper system and proper checks for it, isn't it? And so that was the thing. And then we had a war as well, Kargil War. So new challenges emerged. But it took nearly roughly 2 decades. Now, few months ago, we got this CDS, Chief of Defense Staff. And it is said that because of this Doklam crisis, then we had this Balakot airstrike. And there are a few people who say that it was perhaps our Prime Minister who emphasized on having this CDS and theater commands. So we have this sort of discussions are again on our table now. Now, every different service, right, they have their own requirements. They have their own wish list. Like Navy wants 200 ships. Air Force target is 45 squadrons. One squadron is made up of a set of planes. You have like a few planes, right? I'm not sure about the number. I have to go through it. But it's basically, let's say you have 50 fighter jets in one squadron. So you have fourth generation, second, third generation, etc. So you have this one squadron. Then we should have 45 squadron to have a thorough protection. But we are somewhere around 29 or 30 or something like that. So we need more planes. So Air Force wish list has it basically wants to achieve this 45 squadron. Now we have to understand that we have very limited resources, right? Limited money, and we have to utilize each and every penny. We should have this optimal utilization of our resources. Now a few points associated with CDS, and these points are important because you can find them in your MCQ, right, in future examination. Like a question can be formed like keeping in mind or considering CDS, right? Consider the below given statements, keeping CDS in your mind. So this Chief of Defense Staff heads the DMA, whether this statement is right or wrong. Then he is principal advisor to the Defense Ministry, military advisor to the Strategic Nuclear Force. These are the points, right? These are right points. But what he is, or this CDS cannot do, is he is not an operational head of tri-service theater commands. You find this sort of things in USA, where the CDS is CDS is an operational head, but in India, CDS is not an operational head of tri-service theater command. So keep this point in mind. So discussions are going on whether we should go ahead with USA style or Germany style. At present, we are somewhere near Germany style, where CDS is not head of this, or this operational head of this tri-service theater command. And it is very important that within next 6 to 8 months, the CDS should come out with a plan, vision document explaining his plan on this this command, theater command. And the discussions are also going on this education, how we are going to educate our education of our officers. So policymakers, academics, military officers are having a discussion on this thing. And last one is about South Sudan. South Sudan is a country. On your screen, you can see this map of Africa. You have Sudan here, and this is South Sudan. You can see it here as well. So this South Sudan is a country formed in 2011. It was part of this big country, Sudan. Then it became, then out of this two, we have now, means from one Sudan, we have now two countries. One is normal Sudan, the other one is called South Sudan. Capital is Juba. Now, it's of course a least developed country. It is struggling, right? Things are not that good here. And the latest news is that this new national unity government, where you have this prime minister and those rebels, now they are part of the government. You may find a question about these communities, ethnic community, Nuer and Dinka communities. Where do you find them? You find them in South Sudan. Remember, they had this 2018 peace deal. Early on, we have seen more than 380,000 lives have been lost because of this after independence power struggle. And they had this peace deal in 2018. Now it looks like things are moving in right direction, but still there are so many people who are suffering from or they are suffering from this extreme hunger. We have seen deaths of more than 380,000 people. Mass rapes are going on. So many cases are going on. You have UN here. You have America is trying to solve problems over here. There are other countries as well. And this UN report exposed the recruitment of thousands of children into military units. So, things are very bad here. You have one Mr. Kiir, who is ruling this country since independence. And this is something that is very common in African countries. You have one leader, one ruler ruling the country for a very long period of time. Now you have this main opposition leader, rebel. His name is Reich Machar. And now Machar is, as per this peace deal, this new national unity government, is going to be the first vice president. You have 5 presidents, vice presidents basically. So you have one president and then you have 5 vice presidents. So he's going to be the first vice president. And let's hope that president and vice president together, they will maintain this peace and they will pacify their respective communities, these ethnic groups, because ethnic groups, just like in our country, you have this caste system. Over there they have this ethnic group system. Is quite dominant thing in African countries. In different African countries you have different situation, and there are so many South Sudanese people. They have migrated to, they are living in this bordering area of DR Congo and other places because of hunger, because of rapes, because of murders and all these crimes. So we have to bring them back. When I say we, I mean to say the government of South Sudan as well as the world community is engaged here. Like India plays a very important role. India is part of this peacekeeping force. So the whole world, basically under this UN umbrella, we have to make sure that we provide justice as well as they should, this dust of this violence should settle down as soon as possible. And that's basically everything in today's discussion, dear friends. Very soon you will get 27th February's Hindu analysis videos as well. As you know that I already informed you that I was away. So I'm back now and I will cover the backlog as soon as possible. Thank you very much for your love and support. God bless you all. Jai Hind.